Hello. Thank you so much for clicking on a thing and listening to Dagger Cast because that's what this is. I'm Lindsey Charles, your host. We love to talk about all things horror, all things representation in horror, how horror makes us feel, what horror does to us. I This has been a great year for horror, honestly. We have gotten such great, wonderful films, films that really like rocked me to my core, uh, films that made me laugh my ass off, films that used a proper amount of blood. Yeah, I thought who better to talk about this with than my favorite person, encyclopedia of horror and former co-host Brian Kirst. Brian Kirst has been a busy guy. He has been writing for Windy City Times. He is a contributing writer to many outlets, including this has been a labor of love for quite a while. Been working on a book called Queer Horror, a Film Guide. A lot of people have contributed to that. It is available. Find it. Please, read the crap out of it. It is very important content. He's like super excited about it. He's also been dealing with some personal stuff that we do talk about, and so I am going to just mention a content warning here that we do talk about child abuse, specifically child abuse that the Catholic Church has done. It starts off pretty rough, but we do talk about film. We talk about this year's films, stuff that I really enjoyed, stuff that we thought wasn't as exciting. Which will go in that category is Strange Darling. I watched that literally last night, and it was trying to be like a horror Kill Bill or something. It was trying to turn something on its head, and I just don't know. I don't know if it did that, but a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, the twist!" And no, I'm sorry. M. Night Shyamalan could have done better, honestly. Anyway, let's get to the actual show. Without further ado, my favorite person to talk horror with on this planet, Mr. Brian Kirst. Brian Kirst! I've missed you so much.
Hi.
I'm so serious. So it's what we're on. It's a Saturday. It's middle of the day.
It is.
I'm just assuming that you are you just flew in off your bike. Um,
Let's
Jared
say I
is
have. Let's
yeah,
just
yeah.
say
Let's
I
say you have.
have.
Jared's setting up the mics. I'm perusing through Meatwave's merch, messing up everybody's order of things. We have dark matter coffee. I have coffee, but it is not dark matter, alas. This feels so much like when we first started doing this. And yeah, when Jared said that he wanted to do just one more show for the year, I said, "Bring Brian back to me." It's my fault that you're here, and thank you
Uh,
so much for coming back on.
well, I heard the death rattling incantations and rose up from my tomb and wiped off the cobwebs, got the old bones, kind of moving again. And here I be, like a
Awesome.
Romero zombie,
Thank
back
God.
from the dead.
Thank goodness these spell books still work. I'm
They
really happy.
do. They do. And not just, for Tim Burton and Beetlejuice.
Right. So if I know anything, I know that you have been busy. You are a hustler. You are one of my favorite Chicago celebs. Um, what have you been up to this year?
Oh, things have been busy. When I dashed off, did my Dagger Cast dash, it was to really concentrate on writing. And, as artists everywhere know, it's not an immediate, hey, I want this, and it happens. It's taken a while, but I'm back writing for the Windy City Times, which took about a
Great.
year.
Okay.
and it was super important to me. It's one of the last kind of remaining major, LGBTQIA
Yes.
newspapers out there. And yeah, and I've gotten to do a lot of amazing stuff over the past year for them. Lots of different profiles, theater reviews, and yeah, it just feels great to be back, writing, consistently for a major queer outlet, particularly in these times, just to kind of be giving voice to queer artists and kind of celebrating, queer life, and particularly after having lived, 50 some decades myself, I feel like I can throw a lot of experience behind everything I write.
Absolutely.
And yeah, the finally queer horror film guide came out.
Woo!
Ah! Which has been in the making for about 10 years. So yeah, so we did a huge, there were so many, same thing, the artistic journey I was just referencing, this was supposed to be out 2 years ago in the fall and finally came out this September. So
Amazing.
there has been so many crazy, like this past spring, I got a email from my editor saying that McFarland, the publisher, wanted the writers to do their own editing Passover over their own material after the book was already supposed to be out, like had already had 2 or 3 release dates. I mean, just so many little crazy journeys.
Hmm.
But we did a book signing this past August at Dark Delicacies in California, which was amazing. We sold out all the copies we had there. Um, uh, and it was just a great celebration of, I guess, just life. I don't think I think as artists, we kind of, or people in general now, I think we kind of view our successes, about how many likes we get on a photo, and how many magazine covers we get on, and things like that, and it's just not how life really works. And just the fact that I was with all these amazing writers. Calpurnia Adams is one of the writers here, and she um, is the trans woman who they did the movie Soldier's Girl about many moons ago.
Oh, wow.
So she's the basis of that film. She was the trans performer who fell in love with a military man, uh, and he was murdered by his
Oh.
barrack mates, and so she's got a huge place in LGBTQIA history. And I sat next to her at the signing, and so many other brilliant writers. And Kelly Maroney, who I've interviewed many a time, showed up. I let her know I was going to be in LA, and she showed up and was our celebrity. Like, she took videos and took photos, and kind of did behind the scenes work for us when she's used to being, on the other side of the table. So it was just kind of, I was like, wow, I've maintained a contact with her, and she took me all around Burbank, and so we had, a horror movie celebrity kind of acting as our, you know, personal photographer, and just being very happy to be there. And I was like, wow, I've, I feel like I've accomplished something in my life. Like it's not maybe millions of dollars, or, this great, success a la Stephen King or whatever, but there's been an impact. So it was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's and you definitely are correct. Like it is really hard in our day and age to like think or to not, equate our worth with how many people like a post. Like yeah, I
Right?
am
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Like I haven't even looked at the cell phone Spotify Wrapped yet because it's going to be like I mean, what? We get 150 monthly listeners. And I'm I know that I know those people. Like, which is kind of cool. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, people are listening to me and actually I think I have like a deep connection and an emotional relationship with most of the people that listen to our music. I don't know. That seems pretty cool.
Yeah,
So,
it is, and
yeah.
it's important, I think, to focus on that. But yeah, like I've been doing big gay horror blog for years, and there are times I've thought about, just stopping it. Is it having any kind of impact?
Yeah.
Then I was like, well, the book's coming out, it's in my bio in the book, people are talking about it, other editors
Yeah.
are being interviewed and they're mentioning it in those interviews. So maybe now is not the right time to do that. But you get your stats and you're like, oh, this article I wrote 10 years ago, 50 people for some reason read it this month. I have, like you said, 3 or 4 people who will like and comment and reach out to me about everything. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not an impact of a thousand and thousands of people every single thing you write, but there is an impact there, and you have to.
Yeah. And you know that like on online, it's just, I mean, the internet is the internet. People are searching for all kinds of things all the time.
Yeah.
And you are a resource. Like, I don't know. Like I like to think of the music I put out, like the stuff, like the videos we have, like at this point, like every Halloween, I watch the cell phone's Halloween music video.
Hmm.
I may be the only one doing that, but it's like to me, like I showed it to Olive and I was like, Olive, this is what your parents were doing
Yeah.
way back when, like,
Yeah.
and it's so funny because I feel like she looks at that and she goes, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Like,
That's definitely
so
you and dad.
yeah. Oh, it's just mom and dad just doing their thing that they normally do. So
Right.
like to
Right.
me, like the stuff sometimes like it's I think achievement even highlights this sometimes. Like sometimes you actually get like accomplishments and achievements and you think, "Oh wow, I'm doing something, I'm moving forward." Um, but also you remember that like the whole reason you're doing this is because you love it.
Yep. Yep.
Like and sometimes even when you're at your lowest, you think, yeah, like, you're like, what am I doing this for? Like, what even is the point? I'm a tree falling in the woods. Does anyone hear me? Like, and then sometimes when someone actually like acknowledges it and says, hey, you're doing this and you're doing a great job, you think to myself like this is what I love to do this. And I
Yeah.
guess even if you didn't tell me that, I would still be doing it because
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
But
Yep.
sometimes you need to hear someone, you need to get some kind of impact to like to
Yeah.
remember I
Yeah.
love doing this. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's that weird double-edged whatever because
yeah.
you can also get that very negative criticism as well. So do that there's always that, well, if you believe the good stuff, do you believe the bad stuff too? Yeah, it's such a funny whatever.
Yeah, the brain is a funny thing because it
Yes,
will,
yes.
even if somebody were to negatively respond to something, I would still be like, well, I fucking love doing this. So you can
Yeah,
eat
yeah.
my ass. Like it's like
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. But it's always nice. Like the Library Journal gave the queer horror film guy a really good review,
yes.
and I do have downtime at work, and I just plug the title in every once in a while. And there was a really lovely review on Amazon, and it didn't mention me by name, but it mentioned a couple of the titles I wrote about, saying like, "Hey, these titles have been out on various compilations over the years, and no one has ever written about them in depth." And this book
Okay.
finally did. So I was like, well, I'll take that as a win. That's nice. Like they didn't mention me by name, but they definitely mentioned, that I spotted these films and gave them a highlight. So yeah,
Yeah.
and you're right. That stuff, it's you need that boost sometimes to continue going on.
Yeah. Like that honestly, yeah. I was telling my therapist earlier, literally this week, where I was like, I just wish that maybe people that knew me got a little like notification on their phone that was like, Lindsay's done, she doesn't have enough gas in the tank. She's feeling really bad and she's thinking maybe like there's no point
Yeah.
to doing the things that she does. Please say something. Like say
Yeah.
anything. Like
Yeah.
because I think sometimes that is the little like that's the little
Totally.
hand up you need sometimes, and
Yep.
I think not enough people get that, and I
Yep.
think that's why a lot of people fail or at least like just stop.
Yep.
Like not even fail, just stop.
Yep.
So yeah. I don't know. If my friends are hearing this, this is important that you like that you at least say something just once. Like
Yeah.
every coworker I have, you're not a friend, like you're just a coworker if you haven't seen my band. And everybody gets one. You just have to come one time. And then I'm like, you did it. You don't have to do it ever again. But you did it that one time. So then I look at that person, I'm like, you came to a show. You're cool. But if somebody like just didn't at all, I'm like, no, I will not be helping you on my lunch break. Please leave me. Like, it's
No
so silly.
cupcakes for your birthday. Thank you. Sorry.
Anyway, because this is the last episode of the year, I wanted to have my favorite human encyclopedia of horror come on and tell me what were the movies that really spoke to you this year. They don't have to be horror. It'd be cool if they were, but I don't want to like limit you, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, like what
Um,
movies really like spoke to you this year? I have a list. And this year, like I feel like last year there were some good ones, but
mhm.
none that like spoke to my heart like this year.
Yeah, you know what? I'll address that. I had an experience where I felt like that I was in um like a zombie apocalypse, like a nightmare. Um, and this kind of ties into to something that I've uh been writing, part of one of the writing projects I've been working on, and just a personal life thing that I've been doing publicity for and being interviewed about. I've been suing the Catholic Church for
We've been talking about like you have talked to me about
yeah,
this in the
yeah,
past,
yeah,
but
yeah.
is it like reaching a
It's
whole
really
nother
going
level?
forward. So, just as background, it was called the Child Victims Act.
Hmm.
In Western New York, there were so many priests that were abusing children throughout the decades, and what the church was doing was hiding these predators away in small towns. There's so many small towns in Western New York,
Hmm.
hiding them away in the communities. And
Like to be clear, not firing them,
no, no,
not
no.
telling them that they cannot do
Well,
priest stuff anymore.
basically, in a way, yes. They were removing them from the church, but they were setting them up, like in
Yeah.
houses and giving them retirement packages, but putting them in communities next to families, next to children. They weren't involved. That they were essentially, yes, retiring them, but they were not alerting anyone in these communities that, hey,
Yeah.
these are
Like
predators. Uh,
okay, so you're saying like they were putting them away, yeah, setting them up basically in
and then
homes.
mix them up. Yeah, yeah, giving them
Yeah.
retirement funds, putting them in houses, and putting them in these communities. Like
And not
removing
putting
them.
them on some kind of
Yep,
some sex offender
their list.
list.
Correct. So it was discovered, and everyone went into an uproar, as they should have. And because of that, um, for it was initially just for a year, but for 2 years, people were able to, any victims were able to come forward and sue
Okay.
because of this, the way the church handled it. It was extended because of COVID. It was extended for an extra year. It was
Oh, okay.
initially, I guess it was initially just supposed to be, 2019 through 2020, and it was 2020 to 21. So I ultimately decided to do this. My whole family has been a victim of this, and there were several, priests that, abused me throughout my preteen years, et cetera, et cetera. So
Ugh.
I decided to do this, and I've always been like, hey, if I'm going to do this, I've got this theatrical background, I'm fairly well spoken. I will put my name on the case. A lot of people didn't want to put their names on the cases. I will be interviewed if you want me to be interviewed. I will, you know, I will, do what other people maybe cannot, and be very public about this. So I have over the years given interviews here and there. Um, what the church did was declared bankruptcy, and so they've been doing mediation, and they've been stalling for 4 or 5 years now in mediation. Finally, a judge, his name's Judge Buckeye, an amazing man, said enough is enough. So he ruled. Uh, they met with him in August, and he took a month. And in September, he ruled that they could present 17 cases, to go to trial. And
Okay.
not everyone wants to go be at the forefront, but they approached me and asked me if I would be willing to do this. I said yes.
Wow.
And I gave an interview to WGRZ in Buffalo
Okay.
when this happened. And they asked me to call in. It was a very short notice. It was like a week after that they told me on like a Monday. I gave the interview that day, and a week later was the court date where they were presenting these 17 cases for Judge Buckeye to rule on. And
Wow.
I couldn't fly out to Buffalo from Chicago on such short notice, but they asked me to call in, and which I did. And my lawyers were kind of presenting the circumstances behind each case. And
Hmm.
the lawyer for the church was just your typical, you know, nasty, loud, abrasive um lawyer. What would you who the person who you'd expect they would hire.
Sure.
And he kept on interrupting without saying an objection. And the judge finally was like, listen, I want to hear. I want to hear these cases. He goes, I want to hear everything. He goes, it's going to take me a month to decide on everything, anyways, but he goes, I want to hear. And so I'm listening, and there was one victim who kept his name on the case. So proud of him, but kept his name. Like there were a lot of Jane Doe, John Doe,
Hmm.
um, but he was an athlete, and there was a week long tournament, and he went to a Catholic school, and he was housed at the rectory. And first night, one priest takes him into the bathroom and has him masturbate him.
Wow.
Second night, he had such a good time, he invites one of his colleagues in. So the young boy is masturbating two priests. Next night, it's three, then four, and finally, it's the whole fucking rectory that this kid is masturbating, and then they start raping him for the
Oh,
whole week.
because it's like once you know you can get away with A, you'll
Yes.
do A through Z. Like it's just so like.
So I hate telling the story, and
Hmm.
there's many people I have not told the story to, but I literally felt like this kid was living through a nightmare, through a
Absolutely.
zombie apocalypse, through the worst thing you could ever, a room full of men raping him. And it built like a story, like a horror story. It
Yeah.
built from
Like
one
a
incident to the next and next. And I literally started to shake, and it's not about myself. It wasn't my own
sure.
story. It was about someone else's, So I literally felt like I was in the middle of a horror film, and I could not imagine, you know, the strength that he put his name is out there. He was one of a handful of the 17, including myself, who have put his name on the case. So that yeah. So I literally felt like I was inside. I've never felt anything like that watching a film, but I
Yeah.
literally felt hearing that story that I was inside a horror film, and I think I just wanted to relate that because it felt so cinematic, and I just think we all need it, particularly in these times, just to re-examine everything. I can't
Right?
believe how many family members still are sending their kids to Catholic high school and Catholic school and are still supporting the church and are still like, we just have to, particularly now, anyone out there listening,
Yeah.
just re-examine everything, particularly with Trump in power. I mean, we really have to look at every single thing in our lives, everything we've been taught, you know,
Seriously.
and,
Like
and everything, because I think that's what it is. We are, you know, blindly taught to believe in certain things.
we're
And
just we're blindly told that the only way that you can find and cultivate community is through religion.
yep,
And that isn't true.
yep,
And like my in-laws are Catholic. They find a comfort in it. At this point, because it's what they do on Sundays, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And every time news items like this show up, they always act like, oh, that sucks. That's so disappointing. And I'm like, but but you're
yeah,
supporting it.
yeah,
Like
yeah. Yes,
you're
that's
still
it.
actively supporting
Hmm.
this.
Yep.
Um,
Hmm.
I had an aunt who was, I think, Methodist, and for the longest time, you know, they weren't allowing anyone gay to be like a leader or like a pastor or whatever they have. Um, and at some point, I think she left because she found out her daughter was gay
Yeah,
and
yeah.
was just like, "Oh, I have to rethink
Hmm.
where I'm spending my time and where I'm spending my energy. Like, I need to be giving in places that actually accept my family the way that they are." And I'm like, "Whoo!" Like just watching that happen blew my mind. It made me so happy, but like. Yeah, I just don't have room for it. And it's so funny because I mean, my kid's almost 5. I know that eventually she's going to start asking questions. And Ryan and I are extremely like, people will try to send all of like books about religion or about like going to church. And I'll be like, huh, huh, like, you know, I'll be
Yeah, yeah,
literally dodging because it's just like, I can't do
yeah,
that. How, you know, like, or when, you know, my very best friends when I call them aunts and uncles and people are like, "Oh, they aren't really your aunts and uncles." I'm like, "Fuck off." Like
yeah,
it's so
yeah.
like
I think we so need to look at non-traditional whatever as we head into 2025 and
yes.
whatever this is going to bring and just really examine stuff. And it can be done, you know. Um, I shudder to talk about my mom about this recent election. She's
Absolutely.
always been, her husband, I know for sure voted for Trump.
Ugh.
And I'm dealing with, you know, I know I will never be able to set foot in their home again because of that. I know she's always been right to life, uh, you know, single issue voter, but I
Hmm.
also know that she, who was, you know, devoutly Catholic, and actually worked for well over a decade and was good friends for a priest, left the church behind.
Hmm.
Really examined and knew what would happen to me and to others, and is disgusted, and has said just exactly what you said. You know, by going to a church, you are a part of the problem. And
Yeah.
every parish, every you know governmental part of the church knows that these issues are exist and are covering them up somehow, some way. And she's left. I mean, she will not, you know, go near a Catholic church. So I was like, well, maybe, you know, I don't quite know how to broach the politics talk with her, but she was someone who spent, you know, 60 some years, you know,
Hmm.
literally, because this has only been in like probably the last, you know, 10 years or so, that, and even less, that she's turned away from the Catholic Church. So 60 some years was a devout Catholic, and she's completely turned away from it. So it can be done.
Yeah.
It can be done. It can be
Yeah.
done.
I really feel like, yeah, that's thank you so much for sharing that
Oh,
because it's you're right. Like it is kind of a real life horror. I just read the book of the year for me was a book from a couple years back that was like on everybody's best book lists, A Little Life. Um and it's in the center of it is like a man with a past so traumatizing that it's like anything bad that could happen to a boy has happened. It starts with him in a fucking church, in a rectory, and
yep,
it's just like it's so like you think like, oh, this is torture porn, this is trauma porn, this is you
yeah,
know they're just trying to scare us. They're trying to make this guy's life just so devastating he can't talk about it. But it's like this actually does happen though.
it
Like,
does. Yeah. And
you know,
I think that the story I told about the young man in that I, I knew horrible things happened and I knew it was bad. I didn't realize how monstrous. Just
Yeah.
like to me, that was probably. I know I've heard worse things in my life, but not by a lot. But not by
Hmm.
a lot. I mean, we've heard of, you know, war crimes and those atrocities,
Oof. That's been, yeah. I mean,
which
that's
are
been a,
just disgusting and despicable. But
yeah.
this is not far below that.
Yeah.
That story to me, it's just crushing and devastating and monstrous. So yeah. Speaking.
I know I have been telling people, I'm like, look, 2024 has been traumatic. If you're not
Yeah,
dealing with that, if you're not like, trying to take care of yourself in
yeah,
this, like, or, you're wrong. Like, you
yeah,
should, like, if you're just trying to ignore everything that's going on, don't. It's bad. Like,
yeah,
we're literally watching a genocide happen. Like, we're literally watching children get shot in the head.
yeah,
They're not terrorists. Like, it's
yeah,
crazy for me
yeah,
to be living in this world and have people turning a blind eye even now. Like, and yeah, with all of this happening, this is stuff like in our backyards. And whereas like we're afraid of what? Drag queens,
yeah,
um like we're afraid of IVF. Like it's just it's bonkers, and I really hope that in the next 4 years, you're right, we as individuals, not necessarily as a government, because that's not, we're not going to find solace in our government changing its view on anything, but we have to change. Like we as a people have to change. Um, because or this will still just keep fucking happening. And after so many years, like, you'd think we would know and learn, but like it just isn't happening. Um, so yeah,
yeah.
been a traumatizing year. I'm glad we're
Yes,
thriving. We're thriving, but
we are. We are. But what I've loved, well, your initial question, which I kind of went in a totally different direction with, um,
totally fine.
I love that those traumas, particularly with the church, have been examined. Like you asked about some of my favorite films, Immaculate, The First Omen, all about the evils of church and how, particularly how they pertain to women and their bodies. I
Very
love,
feminine movies.
yep,
Like both of those movies were so woman in the front,
mhm,
like the trauma of
yep,
womanhood, like just
yep,
the what we put women through,
mhm,
like both church and just being in the world.
yep,
Um, yeah, you're right. Yeah, those are definitely great movies to talk about kind of the about just burden of womanhood and
yeah,
burden of, I don't know, of purity and chastity and all that
yeah,
stupid shit. Like,
yeah. And also, like, can we give uh Diablo Cody a break? Like, I loved Lisa Frankenstein, and like she just can't like Jennifer's body, they've erased every 35 millimeter print. I really enjoyed Lisa Frankenstein, like come on, that was probably Lisa Frankenstein, and I'll be honest, and this might have to be with election trauma, but Terrifier 3 were probably my two just favorite films that I enjoyed at the theater. And I think Terrifier 3 very might have been just a release from all my anxiety over, having just, lost the election to Trump, just 2 hours of pure bloody, slashery, gross mayhem. But
I do like when a horror movie is just at its basis level of violence. Um, because in the world of A24 horror movies, a lot of things are getting very cerebral.
yeah,
Um, and I do appreciate a movie that's just like blood, lots of
yeah,
blood. Like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, I think sometimes we need that as an outlet, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I just
Um,
had a great time. I just had a good time. Like with the recent Halloween reboots. Like
mhm,
a lot of people think that first one is their favorite. I love Halloween Kills. The three. I don't know if I love that series in particular,
mhm,
but if I had to pick my favorite of the three, it would be Halloween Kills, just because I think it's just crazy, bloody slasher, mayhem. And I would say the same about Terrifier 3. Of the three, I probably enjoyed that the most. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of that
yeah.
series as a whole, but it's just if you're just gonna go for it and be silly and crazy and gross, I think there's a charm and a joy in that. So
Yeah. Also, I mean, and this is kind of like it isn't necessarily very straightforward, but I loved In a Violent Nature
yeah, same. Yes.
because like it was a, it was trying to be a Jason type of movie,
Yep.
but from a different perspective.
Hmm.
Like the
Hmm.
amount of just him walking in
Hmm.
nature
Yep.
was
Yep. Yep.
so like in a way therapeutic and calming and like, oh, so this is what he sees all the
Yep.
time.
Yep.
It reminded me a lot of playing like the Friday the 13th like video game
Oh,
where you
interesting.
play, yeah, where you play as the killer
Yeah,
because there are
interesting.
still like noises, but every now and then you'll hear all these other like sound bites or you'll hear the kids like screaming around. But like,
I love that, Lindsay. I'm not a video game guy, so I love that perspective because I would have never thought of that because I'm not, but I love that. I'm sure that
yeah.
had to be a motivation for them. I wouldn't be surprised if that was.
I agree. I almost think, yeah, like I almost wonder if we didn't have those games, would they even think to make a movie kind of from the killer's like viewpoint? Because it's not like because Jason's like whole like story is imbued with some kind of magic, it's
Mhm.
not just a guy. It's like this almost indestructible, like charmed by some dark magic we don't know about. And I loved even in the movie where they were trying to like make sense of it, like, oh, he needs this thing, or if you do this, it'll stop him. But it's like we don't even know.
Yeah.
Like, what are the rules? We don't know. He
No.
doesn't know. All he knows is that he really needs to murder. He
Yeah.
needs his locket back. It's important. Like, and it's so like wild. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
I really liked that one because it was
Yeah.
very brutal, but it was like
Yeah.
brutal from a different perspective, from almost like a peaceful perspective. It was like
Yeah.
watching a movie while it was like watching a horror movie while meditating.
Yeah. Interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
I loved the queer relationship between the flirtation between the two women trying to figure out their relationship. There was a lesbian uh wannabe relationship. And
Hmm.
what I loved too, if you look back at those, as someone who reviews theater and kind of concentrates on the performances, you didn't get to know anything really about the characters, but I thought the acting was so natural and
Oh
believable,
yeah.
and you believe that they were friends, as opposed to, like, say, the Friday the 13th films, where, yeah, they're stock characters, but you get to know something about their relationships and who they are, and the acting is it's okay, but
Hmm.
it's not great. And here, I was like, wow, you don't get to know a lot about the characters, but the acting, I thought, was very, very good as compared to a traditional slasher from the 80s.
Exactly. And they
You
were
really
just,
believe
and I
them.
think you needed to be good in order to fit in those little personal moments
Yeah,
into like we don't have much time. This man's
yeah,
just we're
yeah,
we're we're just we're the killer and we just want to kill. Like,
yeah.
and so I did think that was interesting. And I also think you're gonna see a lot more women being queer in all movies. Like we're already seeing it happening like in regular film. You're gonna see it so much more, especially now that Chapel Roan exists.
Yeah.
Like now, like Pop has made being a little bi
Yeah.
as a treat like a cool thing. And so I think we're gonna see a lot more of that in film and in a lot more of like an effortless way. Like, oh, they're gay and they're bi. Like,
Do you think that's also going to be a reaction? I mean, if women are naturally more fluid, and we're living in a world where men are holding up signs now going, things we can own, land,
your
dogs,
body, my choice.
women.
Yeah.
Yeah, like literally there were signs, of saying, "Hey, you're my property now." Do you think that's also going to be, a result of, "Hey, well, I like men and women, and why would I want to go with a man? If you think you're going to own me, fuck you."
I think to a certain degree, maybe. I think a lot of older women who may have, like even me, like I don't know, last year I came out as queer,
Okay. I
because
didn't
I
know that.
was just like, I don't know, like I don't think I was ever attracted to just men. Like I also am very attracted to women. I just think when I was young, I I didn't. I wasn't creative about it, you know. I was just kind of like, I think I'm supposed to like boys, and I think that's what's expected, and I think okay. And so now, I don't know, but then I look at Ryan and like all the things I like about Ryan are very not things that women normally like about men. Like Ryan is very gentle. Ryan is very he has gourd like when he cuts his hair short, I hate it. When I love his
Bring back
butt.
the hair.
I literally could I could write sonnets about his ass. Like I like and not because it's like a good like it's a curvy like almost like a woman. Like I want to paint him. Like to me like there are just a lot of things that I'm naturally drawn towards that I'm like, that ain't straight. That
Yeah.
didn't feel straight to me. Gwendolyn Christie, she could break me in half. I dress her up like General Phasma and do whatever she wants to me. Like that, like things like that, where I'm like, oh yeah, that wasn't just me like joking around. Like that was me being actually serious. But I'm married and whatever. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
like to consider it anything like I'm gay now. Like
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah. 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 You're
I just
aware.
definitely I'm not straight. Like I came
Yeah.
out as not straight, basically. But like I think yeah, I think you're gonna see a lot more of that and a lot of like more older women questioning the culture, basically.
Yeah.
Because I think like
Mm.
in the 80s and the 90s, it was like you know, you're supposed to like girls or you're supposed to like boys. Like this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But now I feel like no one has the blueprint anymore. Like no one is caring. Like you don't have moms and dads that are like, this is what you're supposed to do. Like it's more like, well, figure it out. Tell me about it later.
Yeah.
Like we're not our parents. You know, we're not even like I'm trying to explain to a 4-year-old the non-binary, and that's been really interesting.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and sometimes she gets it, but I think by the time she's my age, she's gonna get it way better than I did
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it was hard for me. So
Yeah.
like I think things are moving in a direction that I don't think the Trump America care like wants, but it's gonna fucking happen. Like it's just gonna happen, and I think and also like with the men like I don't know with girls being like well I don't want men anymore I think to an extent maybe but also I've been seeing a lot of memes about women like literally thirsting for the guy who shot the United Healthcare CEO so who knows everybody's like I can fix him like it's so weird to see women be like so is there like a so does he have a girlfriend? Like and that makes me giggle because I'm like there is a part of the woman population. I just think a part of us in general that loves what's bad for us.
Yeah.
We like the candy McDonald's level significant other who is toxic and will eventually give us a heart attack. Um So yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry, that was a very long-winded answer to I don't know.
Well, no, it was kind of a question that there really wasn't an answer to.
Mm.
It's just, it's all, supposition, right? It's
I
all
just
just
think the
guessing.
more that
And
people make things mainstream, the more that they will become mainstream.
yeah,
Like I was just talking about how when I was in the aughts, it was Britney Spears, low-rise jeans. I couldn't fit into either of those categories.
yeah,
But if I had a Julia Fox crazy weird person doing literally whatever the hell she wants, dressing however the hell she wants, being like, no, 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 we're gonna age. Like, we're not gonna try to be young. We're gonna age. We're gonna do whatever the hell we want. I would have, I would have been more adjusted, I think,
yeah, yeah,
instead of just constantly pressured but from all sides.
yeah,
Well, you have
yeah,
to be this. You have to be this thing.
yeah,
And I found my own way too. I'll be whatever the hell I want to be and dress however I want to dress. But it took me a while to get there. Whereas I think if I was a young person now, I would be like, "Oh, we've got pop stars shaving their heads. We have pop stars who are like, I don't give a shit
yeah,
about what you think."
yeah,
And that would have helped me. a
Yeah,
lot more.
attacking the media and being like, "Hey, don't be rude to me, and you can only invade my space so much, hey, I'll walk away from this, and
Yeah, I feel like we're trying to be a society that i- is good at putting an arm's length away from the what society and what media is trying to throw at us. And I think that's why it's such a bad thing when we talk about men that are like always online, constantly online. Because those are people who can't control what the media is doing to them, I guess.
and then let's be honest, I remember saying to someone, oh, I think it was one of my cousins was posting um something. She has a trans daughter,
Hmm.
um, and she lives in Western New York. Was posting something, you know, and I said, you know what, if we lose, I said it's partly I don't think the Democrats are dealing with Gaza and the war.
No,
And I said, and I think it's the media. The media is not challenging any of the lies or the craziness. And I was like, I'm a journalist. And it hurts me to say this because I love the written word.
absolutely.
I love movies about journalists and My Girl Friday and the front page and anything like about writers. And, it's so romantic and lovely and important to me. And I come from a family like my Uncle Sean's a journalist in New York. Almost everyone in my family, to some degree, is a writer. Has written their company newsletter or whatever. So it's very important to me. But I was like, media didn't challenge or question or
No.
interrupt or do anything
I almost think that
to
like, yeah,
stop any of the
it's so
craziness.
weird. I'm like I'm a New York Times subscriber, which is a constant battle for me. Because they have said some really weird they've carried and like reported on some really weird stories about trans people that even trans people have been like, this is wrong. And yeah, the way that they word things about Gaza, kind of weird. Um, but like they are the ones that are in the crosshairs, right? Like that's what blows my mind is that they choose to play this very like almost too neutral uh like place, which I'm like, I understand you're a journalist, you should be impartial, but you should also like tell us when lies are being thrown at
Yes,
us
yeah, yes,
and stuff like that, or like tell us when the like I know they love their opinion section, but it's like when it's harmful to a people,
yeah,
like not cool. But like Trump winning is going to be like journalism is some bad shit's going to go down. And like we just, like I don't know why they're acting like everything's okay because it's not. It's definitely not. The Democratic Party not okay. Like I I like I reinstated my membership at the Democratic Socialists of America because I was like, I don't belong here. I don't belong here in the Democrat group.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
ridiculous. Or even like with the whole United Healthcare thing with that CEO being shot in broad daylight, the amount of joy I'm seeing online from that really is an indication that things are wrong.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
that the fact and like even the Democrats are like, "Oh no, thoughts and prayer." Like and it's like you could have taken that a whole different way and actually brought us together. Like, honestly, the only thing bringing us as a country together is the fact that a CEO of a healthcare insurance company that has like the leading people that decline insurance to people, like, we're all united on the fact that this was a good thing. It's kind of like interesting and
yeah, yeah,
so creepy. Like I feel like
yeah.
we're on the borderline of the purge. Like it's so weird
Oh
to
yeah,
be in this weird country like right now.
oh,
I also would like to bring up that what I've been, we've just been talking about the media and stuff. I would also like to note that I saw the TV Glow, while not like a classic horror movie,
Mhm.
scared the shit out of me.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I saw that. Um, I don't. Yeah, it was one of those things I didn't know. I enjoyed portions of it. I didn't exactly know. It's one of those things I think I need to see again.
sure.
And you kind of go, there are so many films that have gotten like Late Night with the Devil,
Hmm.
Long Legs. I saw the TV Glow, Maxine. And Maxine I guess didn't get amazing critical response, but a lot of these films that have gotten, that I all enjoyed to a certain degree, got these incredible reviews, and I was like, well, I really enjoyed those, but I don't know if they're the masterpieces that, everyone is saying they are. To
Yeah, I mean, I agree on Longlegs front. I mean, way to go, Oz Perkins.
I really enjoyed it.
But I thought that the pre-movie press stuff, all of the codes and the stunts they did, overshadowed the movie by a lot.
Yeah,
Um, and I thought you shouldn't have gone this hard
yeah,
in marketing
yeah,
because now we all were like foaming at the mouth for this movie that was just mid. It wasn't all that great.
yeah.
Um, whereas I saw the TV Glow though, it deserves every single thing it got. Like,
Interesting.
I
Okay.
know the movie is about transitioning, um, and that was kind of the director's like lens was to kind of talk about like what being in the wrong body feels like. And I, being a cisgendered person, didn't see it that way, but I saw it as if you are doomed to live a life where you are unable to live your truth, where you live a life where you're just doing what people expect of you and you're not doing what you want, it starts to feel like maybe you're in a prison
Yeah.
of your own making or of someone else's. And so by the end of that movie, I was like visible, like I was very upset, like because I don't like to think I'm one of those people, but I live in Indianapolis. I have a house.
Yeah.
I have a child. I have to pay childcare. I have to do all of these things that us normal people have to do all the time. And sometimes it feels like, what is this? Like, I've never felt like things are could more be a simulation than I do right now. Whereas like in
Yeah.
your 20s, you're like, woo! Like in your 30s, you're kind of like, woo! And then
Yeah.
here I am in the 40s, and I'm just like, oh my God, like how did things get like this? Like, and it can be terrifying. And I think that there are people who, I mean, I definitely feel like I am my own person almost to a degree where I cannot be anything else.
Yeah.
I have tried.
Yeah.
But like I think some people literally live their whole lives like that, and it's not just people who are trapped in a body that they don't understand, but in a world they don't understand. Like there's got to be a poor child that's sitting tomorrow on Sunday with their parents at church and just being like, "What is this?"
Mhm. Yeah.
And I to me that movie was for that person or for those people that were like, please stop living a lot. Like please
Yeah.
stop doing what you think you should be doing. Do what you want, please. Because there was literally like a part where he's in like a Chuck E. Cheese type of place, and
The janitor,
on the
right?
thing, yeah, on the
Yeah.
machine, you just see the phrase "you are dying," and it's just like ah, like I was so like get out of there, like,
Yeah.
and it lead like that movie literally leads you right up to the second being like, is he trapped in a prison or is this real life and none of this is none of the stuff that we're hearing about is real and I love that part of the movie. I love how open-ended it was, but yeah, for me it literally was not like it yeah, to me like we were walking around downtown Indianapolis being like Like it was so
Yeah.
crazy. And then
Yeah.
we had a great time, but it was really funny and also I was high, so maybe that's why.
No, 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 no. I definitely like I wouldn't have known, and I had this conversation with other there's a gentleman at my gym and who is a huge film buff, and we'll talk about
Nice.
films, and there's other people who I talk about films a lot with, and the consensus was we wouldn't have known that
Mm,
that was about someone struggling with transition unless we had read about it.
sure. See, and yeah, and I
In
think I
those
came
movies.
in not knowing that. And
Yeah.
then after I did, like after I read about it, I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Yep.
But for me, that's why it was so, I guess, scary to me because I
I
was
can see
like,
that. I can see that. And here's, and I think uh the antithesis of what you just said,
sure,
like I'll be 57 in March. And
a
I think
fabulous
oh,
57, might
thank you,
I
thank you. But
say.
no, I've got no savings. Yeah, I've tried, and every time I save something, something happens.
Of course.
I've realized I've been so independent, and I kind of was going through this thing where I was beating myself up, like, oh, you let that relationship slip through your fingers, and oh, 10 years ago, you liked that guy and he called you and you didn't return that phone call,
Hmm.
because of this or that. You let all these relationships slip through your fingers. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I think you've done that on purpose. You like your freedom, you like your independence,
Sure.
but I've never, ever, ever imagined not growing, being in a relation, like being by myself at 57 or 58 or 59 or 60. I've always imagined having a
Hmm.
partner eventually. So I get what like it's so funny like what you're saying about, oh my God, like I'm stuck. I've got to pay this and pay that, and I'm on this path. So but there's also it's so funny. I'm kind of on the opposite side too of like, fuck, I wish I had a little bit of that path. Like I'm coming home and something has frustrated me at work, and I don't have, and I know not all relationships are balanced and, giving, but I was like, I've got no one to talk to. Yeah, and I'll toss and turn sometimes, and I was like,
Oh,
man, I wish I had someone at least to talk to or cuddle with or do whatever with, So it's kind of funny. Like I'm kind of trying to figure out, all those things. Like
yeah.
you know, I've started to put money away into a cremation service. I've got no one else to do this. I've got to start figuring this out, on my own, and I don't want, my 76-year-old mother, with who's feeling the effects of her polio and walking around with a cane, having to deal with, if I get hit up biking down the street, 2 years from now, I want everything in place, but there's no one to help plan that with. So it's kind of
Hmm.
it's never a perfect thing, right?
Grass is
Like,
always greener, right?
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I just think sometimes, like, I mean, we are where like Ryan grew up. So like
Right,
every now
right.
and then Ryan will have like this crisis where he's like, where, how did I get back here? And I'm like,
Yeah, no, I
I
can
know.
totally see that. I can totally see that, and I think it's just that's part of the irony and the beauty and the humor, I guess, of life
Yeah.
is that nothing's perfect, and I love that. That's what's so amazing about cinema is that you saw where you are in your life in the
Yeah,
where I saw
I
the
guess
TV glow. I think it's
yeah.
amazing.
I
That's
guess I
awesome.
saw like I saw a person, I saw a me that cared more
Yeah,
about like what her family thought or what
yeah,
people or society thought. And I like for a second I glimpsed her and I was like, "Oh, thank God I'm not there."
yeah. That's
But every
awesome.
now and then I feel that world creep up
Yep,
into my life and I'm
yep,
like it's just so.
yeah. No, I
Okay,
think
we
that.
are running out of time. I love you so much. P.S. When you die, you're just gonna explode in a poof of glitter, and
Oh, there we go. That would be
we'll all enjoy
fabulous.
that, and that'll be fine.
That'd be good.
And if
I
you
would love
need,
it that that was the case. Yeah,
yeah, me too,
it would save
honestly.
everyone a lot of trouble.
Okay, a couple other movies. Have you watched, God, I had his name on my computer right here. So a guy named Curry Barker has been posting YouTube movies, and this year he did one last year called The Chair. and everybody was freaking out about it. But he did one this year called Milk and Cereal, and it was like a found footage horror movie. That I mean, he literally just released it free on YouTube.
Have-
Um, keep an eye on him
Okay,
because
I've got this questioning look because it almost feels like I've heard of that,
yeah, he's like this
but I don't want to
blonde.
commit to that.
He's
You
like
know,
this blonde little like looks like a like a Gen Z YouTube star, but
yeah.
he makes these horror films that are so like terrifying. They're terrifying. The Milk and Cereal was so scary and we loved it so much. It was literally like to me it's like the next step of found footage horror.
Nice.
Um
Okay,
and he will be directing a large scale horror movie within the next 5 years, I would
okay,
say.
awesome. And
Yeah.
is that still on YouTube?
Yeah, it's free on YouTube. It's like I
I
think
will
it's like
have
an
to
hour long
check that
or
out.
something, but
Cool.
yeah, it's 1 hour. Yeah. And it's amazing. I thought it was really good, but anything that Curry Barker has done, um, it's all great. And I
Nice.
think he's just coming at it from a different angle. I think he's like
Awesome.
obviously one of those kids that went to film school, dropped out because he was doing all these things, and now he's really like, I don't know, like I feel like the stuff he's putting on YouTube is just him flexing his chops for bigger things to come. And I'm really excited for him.
Nice.
But
Cool. Cool.
yeah, Ryan and I have been really just singing his praises all year. And I want to say, did you see Oddity?
No.
Oh my God. Okay, that's another movie that was the same director who did the he did the movie Caveat, which was like you could see it because it was like a little bunny with a drum and it was
Okay.
terrifying and you're like, what is this? And it was absolutely terrifying. And Oddity is just as good. So there's that.
Awesome.
I know that we can't not end the year without talking about The Substance.
Okay.
Um, I think to me, The Substance was like this year's Get Out.
Yeah.
It was like that people who don't watch horror watching horror for once and being like, "Whoa!" and us being like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
this happens." Demi Moore, cool.
Yeah.
Join the club,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
did
Um, I thought she was fabulous. I thought
hmm
Demi Moore was fabulous. I would love to see that again. Um, Once again, a movie that was so hyped, as you
Yes.
mentioned, kind of with long legs, that I think I was a bit disappointed. What I was disappointed by was I expected, I would have loved there to be some kind of relationship between the two halves of her. Like there was never any
hmm
like like them leaving each other cute little notes and for the first go round, and encouraging each other, and then there being a turn. I thought that would have been much more dramatic.
Yeah, and
Um,
the closest you got to that was her like just writing in the calendar and being
yeah,
like, "These are your days, these are my days," and like,
yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah, it's one of those things where when I watch a movie sometimes or read a book where the whole thing could have been solved by a conversation,
yeah,
I get very upset because
yeah,
I'm like, all
yeah,
you could have
yeah,
done was
yeah,
talk to each other, but it's
yeah,
like they did, but only when it was getting too bad
yeah,
and they're looking at each other and they're like,
yeah,
like that was it. So I did love, to me, the ending was just the most magical thing.
yeah,
The amount of blood at the end. Also, in the credits, they said, like, thank you to everybody who got covered in blood, like to all
yeah,
the extras that
yeah.
were covered. Also, in my favorite, they did a special thank you to Ray Liotta. So I think late Ray Liotta was supposed to play Dennis Quaid's character.
I so wish he would have
I
because
know.
I can't get
R.I.P.
behind Quaid now that he's big old Trumpy dude, but whatever.
Ugh, right?
You know, and he's the
Ugh.
dude. He always used to do nudity in his the films when I was growing up,
hmm
like Big Easy, The Night That the Lights Went Out in Georgia. I was always like, I'm gonna go see the Dennis Quaid movie because I know I'm gonna see some butt, some nice boy butt,
Boy,
and
bud.
I'm like whatever. Now I'm like, dude. But
Oh,
yeah, and I also thought, I almost feel bad saying this as a man, but it was easy feminism. Like we all know that the standards for women,
mm.
beauty and aging wise, I mean that's a story that's been told a lot, and we
So
all understand. that, and I was like, and I just thought, well, that's I think there are more complex stories about how women are treated in society that
I
could.
agree. I do think it was a little like basic.
Yeah,
I almost think it was, to me, I was able to like kind of write it off as it being kind of the style
yeah,
because even like the billboards were like New
yeah,
Year's
yeah,
party,
yeah,
so basic.
yeah,
But the scene where she is about to see that guy and then just never shows up because she's constantly just ripping her own
yeah, yeah,
makeup
yeah, yeah.
off,
Yep.
that to me that was maybe the most relatable.
Hmm. Yeah,
Also, the scene where she has to crack her knee back in place
yeah,
before
yeah,
she gets up.
yeah,
I was literally like, me and my friend were both just like, "Yeah," like it
yeah,
was,
yeah.
those were maybe the two scariest moments of the
Yep,
whole film,
yep.
but they were the realest to me. They were like
Yes,
the most real.
definitely, definitely.
So yeah,
I,
I don't know.
yeah, I would
All
love to see
right.
it again, and I definitely think. Uh, I can't think of the name. She did a rape revenge film that I also very loved. That I loved. That was very stylized. So I think she's a very which I love. I think she's a very
Cool.
stylized director, and I think
Yeah.
she probably just had a vision and points that she wanted to make. And so I would love to see it again.
Yeah.
And someone online described it as a Cronenberg film that turned into a trauma film by the end, which I thought was a perfect description of it.
I
So
do like that. We just
yeah,
watched a trauma film and the music, like the background music was so weird and basic. Like it was literally like just one phrase being sung over and over and we were like, "Trauma, what are you doing?"
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, the sun is changed position. So I'm just like, the last movie I really, really want to talk about because it is maybe my movie of the year
All right, all
is
right.
Smile 2.
Okay, which I've seen as well. Yes, 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 yes.
I thought the scares were insane. I thought the
Yeah.
scares were so inventive.
Uh-huh.
My favorite scare was the one where the girl is in the bed and talking to her, and so all you see is like her, like the dark side, and she's just like smiling. And then when she like opens her mouth, her entire head lights up from within like a light, like a headlight.
Yeah,
And then it's just like "Burp," like as if, they're kind of going back to the car crash.
yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah, 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 yeah.
that was the scare. Like honestly, like the scares were so constant and terrifying that Ryan and I by the end of it were exhausted. Like literally we felt like, oh God, not another one. Like it was so good. My only problem was that at the end, like what was the goal for the Smile Beast? Is everyone in that concert gonna be
That
infected
that
now?
was my takeaway, and that
Yeah.
was like I enjoyed it. I love anything, I love like from Taylor Swift to Chappell Roan to whatever. I've become a pop music diva loving gay guy,
And
so I
we
loved that it focused on a pop star.
And we've been
Um,
getting a lot of those this year. We got
yeah,
Trapped, which
yep,
was
yep, yep.
also like M. Night Shyamalan's daughter wrote some good
Yeah,
fucking
she
music.
was pretty good. Yeah, and I enjoyed that. I caught that on the Max. I didn't go to the theaters, though
Hmm.
I would have if I would have had a chance. But I enjoyed that as well.
Yeah.
Just as a kind of just an enjoyable throwaway film kind of. But I thought she was very very good. And I enjoyed her stuff as well. But yeah, but I think that really I was kind of back and forth. Like, and
Hmm.
I'm someone you know who through the childhood trauma that I mentioned, like I always looked at like the final girls as that's what I latched onto. Like
Hmm.
someone's gonna survive at the end of the film. They're gonna go through all this
Yes.
shit and they're gonna survive. So I do have a hard time.
Mm.
No one survives at the end, or there's
Well,
not a
and because like she basically like halfway through the movie, we don't start like at some point halfway through the movie, we're not even seeing her try.
yep,
Like
yep,
she is like, talking to the guy and being like, how do we stop this thing? But
yep,
even that by the end you realize was a trick.
yep, yep, yep.
So it's like, and now like Ryan and I will literally be like, all right, I'm gonna save your life, and I'll be like, I forgot something, hang on, and then which is my favorite thing. Oh, I
Yeah.
forgot something, and then he just never comes back, and then it's like surprise. Actually, all of that
Was it? Was it
All of
for
that
me?
was you. You've just
I
been
guess these
going
are
through the
spoilers,
motions.
right? To ever, I guess these are spoilers if no one's seen it.
Spoiler, whatever.
Whatever. But yeah, but the ending sold me because I do. I think that was obviously the Smile Beast's plan is to get as many people infected so they can go out into the world and
Yeah.
infect
Also,
everyone.
like
I was like, okay, I like that. I don't like that my pop diva heroine, didn't conquer the beast and
I
survive. But
agree. I do like because she was such a fighter, I
yeah,
was kind of sad that in the end I was like, we never actually saw her fight at all. She
yeah,
wasn't fighting. If
yep,
anything, she was just being played like a puppet the whole time because she
yep,
was
yep, yep,
damaged from the very beginning.
yep.
Yeah. Also seeing Jack Nicholson's son in this like he was the one that was like coming up on the stage. It was like
Oh, interesting.
yeah, he
I
was the
don't know if I noticed.
driver. He was the driver of the car. So her boyfriend or
Interesting.
whatever that died. Um,
Oh, I did. I wasn't aware. I wasn't
yeah,
aware.
apparently, I mean, I don't quote me on that. I might be
No, no,
wrong, but somebody kept
yeah,
saying it was Jack Nicholson's son, and I'm
that's
like,
crazy.
perfect, perfect.
Yeah.
Welcome to the horror genre. Come and do all of the
Come
things.
in, come in, come in, come in, come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I
So yeah,
loved that, and I'm going to my phone right now because for some reason his name is escaping me, but I loved that, uh, uh, yeah, you're right, Ray Nicholson.
Ray Nicholson.
What
It's
was his
great.
name? Yeah.
Oh, I'm so
So,
excited for
so,
him.
but Lucas Gage, which
Lucas
sounds like such
Gage.
a porn name, right? But
It is
Lucas
kind of a
Gage
poor name.
was the drug dealer who,
Yes.
but he's gay. I mean, he's openly gay,
Is
and
he?
that
I did not
yes,
know that.
yes, that he's kind of like the visual, you know, poster boy for
He
the
was
film.
also he was in the last season of Fargo as a
He's
very
done,
dumb husband.
yeah,
So,
done tons of stuff. He's in You and
yeah,
White Lotus, and like yeah, he's building a career. And
good job, Lucas Gage.
yeah,
Welcome to
seriously, as
the
an openly gay man with a very, very, very horny name, so good for him. Lucas
He even
Gage.
kind of has a horny he even has like a horny porn face.
He does, doesn't he?
Like
Yeah,
he's got the golden curls.
yeah,
Like
yep.
if he
Yep.
had if his body was muscly enough,
Yep.
he could change genres.
Yeah, he might, once the well dries, you never know.
I actually Google tried to give they were like, "Oh, here's some you know, I think it was like a million years ago, but it was like, "Oh, here are flashback photos. Remember when this happened?" And it was literally a picture of your hat that just said broke straight guys.
Oh, that's right.
And I was like, "Aw, memories."
That's hilarious. I've volunteered for the Chicago Free Press, which was a paper I wrote for at a booth at Market Days, and broke straight boys were next to us, and or broke straight guys or whatever the hell it
I
was.
think it was broke straight boys. You're
Boys, yeah,
right.
they were
I had
next
it
to
wrong.
us, and yeah, and they were straight. They had all these. Speaking of women liking their trashy weirdo,
Yeah, right.
CEO shooting men, like they had all these young girls like hanging around them, all excited to date and hang out with the dudes sucking each other off for money,
Yeah,
like
the dudes that were just like, oh no, $100 is $100.
yeah,
Like,
I was like, oh, that's romantic. you know.
I know, but there's something. I know there's something hot about that too. There's
Okay.
something hot about a man who is so secure in his own brokenness and sexuality that he's like, I don't know, I'll suck a dude's dick. I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there is
Oh, look,
something
an ass. It's
attractive
just an
about that.
ass. Is it clean? Sure.
I don't care.
Okay.
Somehow I'm good at it. Like, like there's something weirdly
It's
hot
a
about
natural
that. I don't
talent.
know.
I didn't go to school for it or nothing.
Like, oh my gosh. Well, all right. I think we're past our production
We
manager's
are, we are, we
time.
are. But
We
I'm
really,
going to do this. We don't talk about any of that in Queer Horror Film Guide. But you know what? I just want to say the writers, my co-writers in here, are amazing. They really do a great job of doing a great time and place and really setting up the films. This really is a great film history book, and so many straight couples were at Dark Galaxies that were just film buffs and film. So don't let the queer horror film guide, like if you are a film person, the writers really do an amazing job of giving a perspective on celluloid, just the history and where these films were placed contextually and things like that. They
Hell
really do a
yes.
great job. I honestly haven't read the whole thing, but as I've leafed through and read different essays, it's really they do an amazing job. So this is really a film history book. So if you're interested,
Amazing. I'm buying it for Ryan
awesome.
for his birthday. I hope he doesn't hear this podcast. He will. Oops,
Don't,
surprise.
Ryan.
Um, I thank you so much.
Yep.
And yeah, I can you come back? Can we do like a queer film
Yeah, sure.
like episode? That'd be really fun. And we could talk more about the book because I
Yeah,
would really like to give that book plenty of time.
cool. Awesome.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes. Well, thank you so much, Brian.
Thank
It's
you
so
for
good to see
thinking of
you.
me. Good to see you
I am
too.
so glad that you are thriving. Let us thrive in these next four
Yes, yes,
years.
please.
And if
Let's
you
do, let's do,
need,
let's do.
if
And
you need
thanks
to
for having
call,
me back. This was really lovely. This really was a lovely chat. I really
aw,
had a great
thank you. And if you need someone to talk to, I know I can't be there to cuddle you,
chat.
but I will absolutely give you, please, any time.
All right, you got it. You
You're
got it.
family to me.
All
All
right,
right.
well, thank you.
I
Thank you.
love you.
Love you
Thank
too.
you.
Bye.
And that's our show. Again, thank you so much for watching, listening, whatever you're doing. We very much appreciate it. It has been a great year. We haven't done anything specifically spectacular like get songs into a film or whatever, but um I see more on the horizon. I'm pretty proud of what we've done, and yeah, I just really appreciate you watching and listening. So if you ever want to chat, we're on all the socials, please do. And then also, if you want to email us, it's daggercastinfo@gmail.com. So thank you so much. Have a great new year. Have a great holiday time, and we'll see you back for more. Bye.